Okay, so in the previous video I have shown you what was the issue. Basically, we have incorrect spawn locations when we have slope angles like this. So let's try to improve that by going to the DP resources spawner parent class, and the issue is basically we are getting a random location from the spawnable area as just a random point within this bound dim box, right? Which is not the accurate way of doing that, right? So we have to sense the ground first, and then we can determine what is the correct position. So the logic is basically we have to do a line trace from top to bottom until we find the ground, and once we find the ground, it is a hit, and that hit location can be used to spawn our resource, right? That's the logic. Okay, so in order to do that, first we have to do a line trace, right? So just for now I will move this stuff over here, and let's do a line trace for objects. Okay, let's do line trace for objects. And object types I will make as well static, and let's make it as trace complex as well. And just for the demonstration purposes, I will debug the stuffs for duration. And this start and end positions we have to set properly. Basically, we can take this box extent and get the world location of it, also get the scale box extent, and as usual we can get the random point in the bounding box, but we have to use this point as a reference point and start our trace from the top position onwards, right? So yeah, so let's make vector, right? And then the xy values will be same, but the c value should be a different value. So basically I'll promote a variable called c line trace depth, right? So this stands for the depth we need to be traced, should be a float value. Maybe we can make it as instance tuple and assign the category as setup, and I will use the depth as 500 just for the testing purposes, and we can add that value over here. But instead of directly applying the value, let's first divide it by 2 and assign it to the value, because this line trace depth will be should be equal to the both up and down with respect to this specific floating point, right? That's why I divided by 2. Otherwise the entire trace length will be 1000 instead of 500, right? That's why I divided by 2. Let's assign it over here, and end should be somewhat similar, but the difference is that we have to reduce this value, right? So x remains same, y remains same, but the c value will be like this. Okay, let's clean the nodes a little bit like this. Okay, and that will be our endpoint. And if we have a possible hit, we can return the value, right? If we have possible hit, so the value is at the hit result, and this is the location, right? This is the location, or it is the impact point, and we can assign it over here. And if we don't have a hit, we don't need to return anything, so let's promote it to a return value. And if we don't have a hit, valid hit, it will be false. Okay, now let's go to the get spawn resources. Oh no, spawn resources. Okay, now we are spawning, but first let's check whether we have a proper hit or not, and let's plug it over here. I think the same function we used in the randomize resource transform as well. So over there also, let's first check whether we have a valid hit or not. Compile, save. Okay, now let's select our resource tree spawner 2, and let's try to populate the game. Okay, now you can see the positions are correct, right? They are spawning in the correct position. Okay, they are not floating, they are not sinking down to the ground. Let's randomize values. Okay, I think sometimes I have seen some tree. Oh, okay, go into this invalid position. Maybe that's happened because let me see again. Okay, maybe that happens because we have to check whether it's a correct hit plus it's a blocking hit. Both of those conditions matched, then that's fine, else no. Okay, and did we plug the values correctly? Okay, this one is correct and this one is correct as well. Okay, let's see. Okay, now you can see okay, still that error is there. Yeah, actually it's going to the 0th position, right? That's the error, I guess. Well, okay, if it is not a hit, Okay, maybe I can check the impact point as well. If the impact point is 0, then we don't have to consider that as well. Maybe we have to move this thing outside this function, but yeah, let's try. Yeah, it's working, but sometimes the spawning is not accurate because of this thing is calling, I guess. I don't know exactly why, but yeah, you can figure that thing. Maybe we have to go to the spawn resource and to check it's not equal to 0. Okay, and similarly, let's go to the randomization and hit compile and save. Okay, this thing should check. Okay, let's try to randomize again. Well, ideally it should work because because we are checking the position as well, right? But actually, what's this position again? 0, 0, 0. Yeah, the 0th position. Ideally, it shouldn't go for the 0th location. Yeah. This should be not right. No. We are checking not equal as well. Yeah, maybe this value can be too much small, so this function is not able to check that value. Let's make it 0 and not sure this will work, but let's see. Yeah, most of the time it works, but if it get the exact value of the ground, it will move to the 0th position. Yeah, so how about our trace? Have we done any mistakes? To the actors for the actors let's ignore the self as well, and let's disable this trace complex for now, and okay, so trace complex is not the issue, but I think this thing is pretty much fine, right? I'm trying to make it perfect, right? That's the issue, but most of the time it works. Yeah, I think maybe in the next tutorial we can fix that very small bug, but basically this is not a big issue, right? Because it works pretty much fine, and yeah, everything works perfectly. See, so in this spawn, if you have a solid ground, there is no issue, but if you have a slope, it may cause an issue because your landscape may not properly configured yet, right? We have to build our map as well, I build our map, and we have to check whether the map information has been properly generated, right? Then most probably this error will be gone, but it's not a big deal, right? It's just a very simple scenario. But yeah, everything looks fine, and I'll disable this line trace debug type. It just doesn't visualize our draw debug, but actually it works internally, right? So now if you try to randomize it, it will randomize, but it won't draw any traces. And likewise over here, it will, most of the time it works correctly, but in a very rare scenario it will move to the 0th position as well. But that's fine, you just always have to be aware of that. And yeah, I think everything works properly, right? The trees are spawning in the correct positions of the landscape. They are not floating, they are not sinking. And yeah, I think this would be fine, and we'll see some of the improvements in the future tutorials as well. So yeah, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.